Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server and having a look at another Leviathan that is coming into the Leviathans update of War Thunder. They are going a bit crazy, adding in all of the iconic battleships that people have wanted for a very long time, and there isn't really one which is more iconic than the Bismarck for the Kriegsmarine. The Bismarck that you can see here is going to be the new poster boy for the German Blue Water Fleet. You will find it on the left-hand side, so after the Sassion, and also at 8.3 BR. You'll have to research all of the vehicles in rank 6 for it, unless you have the Baden and the Genizer now. Then you only need the Bayern and the Sassion to be able to get access to the Bismarck. But the reason why this thing is so much higher than many other vehicles is because of the fact that it has so much higher weaponry, so much more armor, and also so many more secondaries. It's a huge leap in technology compared to the kind of World War I vehicles you're used to when it comes to the good old German tech tree, with only really the Scharnhorst being there in the Second World War. All of these other ones are either projects from the First World War or just straight up First World War vehicles. So this really does set a new standard in terms of the game for Germany. So the main armament on the Bismarck, these big guns that you see here, the 38 centimeters, or as they are, the 388 millimeters, there are 4 sets of dual-mounted ones, 2 in the front, and then also you have 2 in the back. A very standard, simple way of setting up a main armament. Then you have 6 15-centimeter guns, which you will find in the sides over here. So you can see that these ones are all along here in the wide area of the Bismarck. This thing is not a thin ship, by the way, definitely a thick boy. Then you have 8 dual-mounted 105 millimeters, which are in these turrets here, which I always get confused because I always thought these were 88 millimeter turrets, but they're just 105 ones. And then on top of that, you have 8 dual-mounted 37 millimeters, 12 single 20 millimeters, and then you have the fun 2 quad 20 millimeters as well, which are over here. You can see them in these like types of mounts. So yeah, you have a bunch of crazy stuff in terms of the AA on this. Very reminiscent of a lot of other German vehicles having those 20 millimeters and also 37 millimeters, and all of these turrets on the side as well. So a lot of armament for it. The main guns, the 380s, they actually have a very good fire rate. If you compare it to something like the Iowa, this one actually fires about 30% faster than the Iowa at 2.6 rounds per minute aced, and also the actual targeting speed is a little bit quicker as well. The guns are smaller, so that's basically why, but that's kind of how it goes. So you also have some fire directors on the vehicle. You do have a massive one up here, but I don't think there is any radar on the vehicle, so you won't be able to see incoming planes. Instead, you'll just have a bunch of rangefinders all over the place. You also have a bunch of ammo, and by the way, look how much detail is going into these vehicles. I would just want to appreciate it, right? Look at this ammo elevator. Look at that. Somebody has sat there and modeled all of this. The magazines, the shell rooms, everything on this. Once again, imagine, and also ammo elevators for the 150s and the magazine rooms at the bottom. Isn't this just insane? Just the amount that they're actually putting into this, it's just crazy, absolutely nuts, the detail that are on these machines. You can even look at the funnels with the engines attached and also the transmissions. Just think about the amount of work that has gone into something like this to build this. Like, I would love to sit down with some of the guys who make this stuff and just ask them, like, how much does it actually take to build this? How long does it take? You know, what's the general cost of doing something like this? It must be insane, not just from like looking at the physical model, but you also have to do the x-ray of it and also the armor profile too. It's just nuts. So on the front of the turrets, this is where it gets a little bit wonky, and this is something that has to be kind of talked about. I don't think this armor's ready. So don't Don't look at this and be like, okay, this is what it's going to get in the end. There's no way that the Bismarck only had 80 millimeters worth of armor on the turrets. It also doesn't only have 40 millimeters of armor on the sides and also 25 millimeters around its ammo elevators. It should have way more than this, so don't worry about that. I feel like that is something that will get fixed at some point. The fact that the thickest piece of armor on this thing is only 100 millimeters, and according to the stat card, it should be 320, obviously doesn't sit very well with the machine. It also, if you haven't noticed, only has 15 crew. So can you imagine having this massive machine and it's only run by 15 people, which obviously isn't the case. So there are things which are unfinished on it, but the actual model itself, I don't think is it. The armor is just not fully there yet. So for the 380mm guns, you get some HE rounds with 64 kilos worth of explosive mass. You also have the APC-BC with 18 or 19 kilos, which pen up to 700mm. You get a HE with a base fuse, which has 32 kilos worth of TNT equivalent and still pens up to 500mm. So it's going to be interesting to see if people take the APC-BC or if they try and risk it with the HE with a base fuse, because that is a ridiculous amount of penetration for a HE with a base fuse. And then also you have the HETF, which is a 60 kilo round, which you could technically use for air defense, which pens 100mm. The 150mm guns get a HE shell. They also get an APC-BC with up to 260mm of pen, and then also they get an SAP-BC too, which is kind of a bit of both, the best of both worlds. And also, you don't really get too much else on this machine. There's no torpedoes. You can't change the rounds on the AAs or anything like that. So most of the modifications are just survival and being able to become a bit more mobile. This vehicle basically has the same mobility as everything else. All of these battleships, they tried their best when it comes to dev blogs to make it seem like a lot of them have crazy amounts of like different mobility. They're all basically the same. Like, I don't know how else to put it. They all basically move at the same rate. So it's really not a huge amount between them. And also with the way that the targeting works in naval and with how everything else works, it's really not going to make a massive amount of difference, right? So it's just how it is. You also, with this vehicle, have just, you know, the fact that it is the Bismarck. The Bismarck is probably one of the most, if not the most well-known battleships of the Second World War. It had a pretty tragic end, and it was one of the only kind of, I suppose, German battleships that actually did something by nuking the hood quite aggressively, ammo racking it, and then losing out to a little machine. You can see here, it's AA still doing a little bit of work, not a ton. This one definitely doesn't have as much AA as some of the American ships that are around and also some of the other ones, but it does at least have some quicker turrets. Like you can see there, like the turrets are way faster than other machines that are around here, so getting the guns on target is definitely going to be a lot quicker, which will be nice too. And I mean, what else is there to say about such an iconic vehicle? The fact that we have the Bismarck in War Thunder now is just such an amazing thing. It is just amazing to me that when Naval came out, when they were like, hey, we're just going to have like kind of PT boats with a few like interesting little vehicles alongside of it, and that's how we're going to like set everything up. And it was like, oh, that's interesting. And now we have the Bismarck. Now people can cosplay as their favorite admiral from the Second World War and generally just have a fantastic time with it. And that to me is just insane. It's insane how over even just, what, 5-6 years, you go from that small amount to that. And nowadays, with the way that, you know, the way that Naval works in terms of its matchmaking and how you can always find, you know, games because they can just be filled with like bots and stuff like that, it basically means that it'll be a lot easier to actually use these machines and hopefully bring a lot of people to the game who have been waiting for stuff like the Bismarck. I think in general, it also may start getting people to listen to good old Sabaton again. since of course they are a band which does a fun song about this machine. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Warthunder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.